everyone, and thank you, Marie. What I want to paint very briefly is what government may look like in a decade from the point of view of an individual citizen, and then highlight very briefly a couple of the tensions and challenges I think that creates for the state sector about how it uses and takes care of information. In a decade from now, I think government may look very different to people in the community than it looks today. Some of that will involve, for example, I think quite a large-scale movement of transactional services online and away from other delivery channels. In the area of more complex interventions around individuals, whānau or families, I think we'll be seeing bundles of services much more joined up and delivered across agencies. We'll be looking at a world where what government is quite different, that services may well continue to be delivered, and they will continue to be delivered by individual agencies, but also by iwi authorities or agencies, NGOs, the private sector. So all in all, government from the point of view of the citizen will on the one hand look much more fluid, but will seem much more seamless. On the other side, and that's really on the service delivery side I've described, on the other side, the relationship between citizen and state is evolving. And that means that I think the community is wanting a much more ongoing engagement with the government of the day around the issues that concern them. So we're seeing a strong and ongoing drive to have more participative policy processes. People are less willing for data held by government to be interpreted solely by government agencies, are wanting to have the freedom and flexibility to slice and dice data and come to their own views around government performance or issues in their communities. And if you like, people are wanting the government machine to be much less a black box and much more porous. Now, if you put those two propositions forward, there are some tensions for us about the care of information. Firstly, there is a desire on the part of the community that government is much more seamless, that people don't have to navigate their way across a bewildering range of acronyms and agencies. But on the other hand, and I think the findings in the recent UMR research survey that the Privacy Commission released earlier this week shows, there is deep equivocation and concern by New Zealanders about how information that's given to one agency is shared with other agencies. So if we're in a world where it makes sense for agencies to have much better and accurate information on the individuals or families that they're trying to support, how do they square that with the reluctance and scepticism of people having that information shared widely? And I think that's a real tension for us. On the other hand, we have a world where government is going to be, as I said, much more porous, that there's an expectation that state servants are sharing data at earlier stages of policy processes or more openly after ministers have made their decisions. Recently, you may be aware that the Commission started a couple of inquiries related to the unauthorised release of cabinet-related material. And I was quite surprised that an opposition member of Parliament attacked this inquiry by saying that public servants had a constitutional right to leak. And it seems to me if in fact there's a cultural willingness for us to do that in the policy space, does it apply in the personal space? And so for us as a state service, how do we become ambidextrous in the sense of taking real and continual care around the individuals, the information around individuals, while on the other hand meeting the expectations of the community around transparency and participation? And that's a real tension. It's one about management systems, IT systems, but frankly the bigger challenge is one about culture and how we actually instill in state servants that sense about working in a world where our understanding about information and knowledge needs to be much more nuanced than it has in the past. So I think if we look at the next decade, there is a real opportunity for government to work better for New Zealanders. But we want to make sure that we manage that transition in a way that we retain the high levels of trust in the state sector that I think we enjoy as New Zealanders, certainly compared to many other like jurisdictions. Thank you.